We're starting to record now. Welcome back. As you see, we are back into the, where is it? The East Asian Management. And we've finished week 3. We are basically in week 4 here, finishing the cultural differences and the idea of getting the Chinese management. When you get into the Google Drive, our Drive folder, you will see for week 3, week 4, we're starting to get into the art of war, and we're coming up to social capital. So today, before we start too much, I want to remind every student that it is, for international management, you must be able to try the foreign country management styles. And since Korean style is to be polite and quiet and listen only to the professor, I'm reminding you, you have to show participation almost every class for the grade. You can skip every class and just watch the videos. But when you do show back up, you need to show something like what these last students did. So I'm going to share my screen right now. And you should be able to see this is a presentation that some students have made. And the most important thing is there's an article that not only they found an article and they've referenced it here, but they took out, and I highlighted a couple of good quotes. Maybe every student in the class might want to use those quotes in your paper. Here is another quote from an article. Here is another quote from an article, another quote from an article, another. So by sharing special details or what is important about good Scopus journal articles, not only does that help the student complete their term project, which is worth 60 points, but it can get points for class contribution. So if you do want to skip a class, then the next class, maybe you can show 2 or 3 journal articles and the main points, just like this. Let's go through, and I hope the students don't mind if I promote you guys. Again, we've started to talk about this. They've went through, they showed the Asian management in the 21st century. It's an article that is a core part of the class, and it's repeated here. And then they went through and they showed how a Chinese person has difficulty working with Westerners, or how Westerners have difficulty working with Chinese people, just related to training manuals. I have the same issue with training manuals with some of my companies in Vietnam and China. So here's another article talking about training differences or employee differences, international management issues between Belgium and China. This is another one talking about Central Europe and East Asia, and another one about China and Japan, or China and South Korea. So these are all awesome, and students are planning to do interviews. So what we're looking at here, it is an amazing weekly presentation. If you want to do part of it, you can have this as your weekly points, but because they're actually set up almost like a research paper showing what their research is all about, and they're showing that they're going to do interviews, this is what is expected for week 7. Week 7 is the deadline. Before midterm break, every student should be showing what they have started in their big 60-point research project. So you've already got those details. You have student classmates that can talk about that. This is another student. They have started a paper already, and they've shown their research paper. It looks almost finished to me already. I do not require you to finish it, but it is very smart. The references for the first group of students, it was a good beginning, but every student should show detailed specific website links where anybody in class can click on it and see the article. This student has some of the links you can see in blue, but some of them they haven't included the website link, so it's the old style. For our class, I require you to have either a DOI, which is the internet code, or a web link to find these articles. And again, this student paper is talking about limitations of Hyundai's hierarchical system as a global company and the barriers this horizontal hierarchy system poses when they're going into going from Korea to China to Canada to India, and it's an ideal term paper. Obviously, they're going to be developing it a little bit more. This is what is expected also for the week 7. You don't have to finish a paper, but that is ideal. The minimum is to show us what is your title, what is your overall plan, and at least show us several journal articles that you're planning to use and how you might use that information to make intelligent contact, to develop a connection or relationship, a network with the company that you want to work with. So next, here is one other student. They don't talk in class, but the student understands that we are studying this week the art of war. The textbook chapter is talking about Sun Tzu, Art of War. And at the end of every chapter, there are questions basically asking to see if you understand the chapter or summarize the chapter. And so this student has gone through those chapter questions and summarized the main points. And what is extra interesting is the student gave an extra link to where you can get additional information. It's not as good as a Scopus journal article, but it does provide a lot of information about China and around China. And why this is especially important is this student is actually connected with a, how should I politely say, a government officer working in China. Usually they use an embassy or a consulate as their office, but they can go anywhere, do anything. Usually they have the ability to get around any issues, and they are not an ambassador. I'll leave that up to your imagination to understand what kind of job that student's father does. So again, this is talking about Sun Tzu, Art of War. Now, before I start talking to you about the Sun Tzu Art of War, I again want to remind you that every student should be talking more than me each class. Every student should be trying to ask questions about the topic before I teach it. You should read this stuff. You can easily watch the video of me teaching this before class. That's why we have the videos, so we can actually just talk in class more than just having me lecture. This lecture is already on YouTube video. You should be able to see all of that. For example, it looks like this. You can watch this. This is almost a 2-hour video, me teaching some of these details. Any students want to propose some of your information or share some of your information? Ali, can you go through and go through the attendance and the records for the class participation details?
Okay. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Okay. Can you give me the co-host?
Yeah. You are co-host. Go ahead.
Okay. So I hope you guys can see my screen now. Can you hear me clearly?
You're going a little bit slow, so I'm going to present the idea, and you're a little bit noisy there. So can the class still hear me? Julian, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Yep. Okay, so Ali has a record. As you can see here, it says week 4, week 3, every student's details are here, what they are doing in class. What I want you to realize is that every student that has a blank here, they get 0 points. And if you have something, you may have points. Normally, you can get maybe half a point for simple questions or answers. They should be significant. If you are, for example, presenting or giving a summary of a journal article, that's 1 full point, you get for it. You do not need to take a long time. You can just show you have this information in Facebook and just point people to there, and you can have the summary in Facebook. So she is showing that you can, if you're going to be managing the weekly topic, you can get 10 points for a perfect weekly topic presentation. Like last week, we had 2 students that got the full point for the weekly topic presentation. Plus, because they presented many journal articles, we give them an extra 1 point for significant class contributions. So last week, the students got 11 points, and some other students, if they went through the quiz and answered the quizzes, you can get maybe 2 points for commenting about the quiz or sharing some of your results on the quiz. Eventually, we're going to be using Google Forms or surveys to manage the quizzes. It's best if a question is posed, students directly just start raising their hand or commenting in Facebook for that. If you are just talking chit chat, that's worth half a point. So thank you very much for that, Ali. I'm going to go back and get back into this PPT presentation. This idea that we're talking about is Sun Tzu and Art of War. So since I hope many students will go through the videos I've already created, I'm going to start today by just asking the students, all students, who can tell me what is the art of war? Why are we talking about it? Why waste our time talking about war when we're supposed to be teaching international management? Can anybody put their hand up and try to get some half points for introducing the general concept? Going once. Very quiet. Going twice.
So I bet somebody knows about the art of war between our students.
Yes. How about, let's make it very clear. Today, there's one focus that we're talking about, Sun Tzu Art of War. But Julian also has another activity, and we expect every one of the students to be able to talk about these 2 things today. Either talk about Sun Tzu and Art of War, or Julian, do you want to introduce your 1G wish concept again?
The Guangxi?
Last class, we ended the class asking students to prepare for asking for one secret wish. What can you do to get success? You want to explain more, Julian?
So the idea behind was that we should, each of us, think what is the only one thing that we could ask, yes, in order, that we think it's so much important to get success. It's just like, for example, if we meet somebody that can fulfill one of our wish that will make us successful, what would we ask from him? So the idea is to think, what should we do in order to be successful? What should we have in order to be successful? What should we focus on in order to be successful? So this would be something we will challenge you discussing by the end of this class.
Yes, every student will have to get into a group and talk in your group, maybe about the art of war, but the end result is you must think what is most important. What do you need to be very successful? And so if I go through and start introducing the art of war, this is basically saying you can use the internet, you can learn about the art of war. This concept, we are studying the idea of Chinese management now, and this is a Harvard class. You can watch a Harvard class teaching Chinese culture online for free. So there's no excuse. You should be able to find information. Next, there's several different articles we can review, several different details we can review. There's management theories we can review, whether it's Maslow, Herzberg, McGregor, the idea of being parochial or ethnocentric or understanding global cultural synergy, learning the different cultures. But the main thing that we're focused on today, where is it here, is this. So this is a summary of 13 chapters of kind of like a book created by Sun Tzu a long, long time ago, 13 principles about the art of war. And so I'm going to put you into a group, and you must consider in the group, do you think the being able to have very good plans for how to attack in business, or how to position yourself in business, or how to control your illusion and the true illusion versus the fake illusion, the reality, how to engage your staff, motivate your staff. So are one of these the secret to success, or is the secret to success just having lots of money, or is the secret to business success having a rich father or family, or is it education or name brand degrees? What is it? You must talk about these details in a group and think about it all class. And the last 15 minutes of class, we're going to focus, and you guys must decide what is best. So with that in mind, I'm going back and I'm going to present the overall ideas again. This concept, I just want to review some of these things. Hopefully you guys can see this. So with the review, we've already talked about the theories of management, criticisms of management. We've talked about the explanations for how did United States develop quickly. They copied United Kingdom and they took 100 years. Then Japan copied United Kingdom and copied Japan. Sorry, and Japan copied United States and they took 70 years. Korea copied the UK and the US and Japan, and they developed in 20 to 30 years. Vietnam and China are able to copy all of them, and some people are saying that Vietnam and China are developing within 5 to 10 years. So how do you learn? Is the secret to success learning from others, learning from history? Or is the secret to success the sheer idea of knowing your own mind, your own culture, your own values are your biggest obstacle? If you really want to be successful, some people say you must learn the value of your target. Whether you're talking to a customer or talking to a staff, you must understand what are their values and talk in a mutually beneficial way. Is that the secret to success? It's obviously very important, because we talk about how Samsung has one culture, how Hyundai has one culture. They're both very, very different. They have some Korean similarities, but they're both very successful. So what is it? And then we talked about, some people say you must understand foreign culture. Hofstede has the PDI, uncertainty avoidance, individualism, etc. We talked about a couple of videos in class that were East-West videos by the EBS Corporation. They showed that people think very, very differently. When you see one person with a small little item called a DAC, does it go with something that is the same shape, with a different color and a different material, or does it go with something that is the same material? So that concept showed us that people think very, very differently in Asia, completely different than the most people in the West, in the UK, or in Australia, or North America. That was one concept to show you people think and work and are motivated differently in different parts of the world. There's one thing that I didn't talk about too much though, and it's another video I have shared with you. It's in the Excel file. It's called 2 million minutes. Are there any students here that have actually checked that 2 million minutes yet? Can anybody tell me what 2 million minutes is about? Going once, I'll wait a few seconds. How about I ask Shiraz Hassan, have you any idea about the video? You don't have to know, but if you have seen the video in the Excel file and on our folders, it's like a gigabyte of information, you might get some class points. So Shiraz Hassan?
Yes, Professor.
Can you answer my question? Are you aware of the video 2 million minutes in high school?
No, Professor.
No. Okay. What about, so Jihuan, do you have any guess or ideas about that?
Oh, no, Professor.
Okay. I'm going to cut into the basic idea. Overall, many high school students around the world spend 3 or 4 years in high school. And if you understand that you spend a certain number of minutes in school each day, and you have 365 days a year and 4 years of high school, the amount of time students spend studying equals approximately 200 minutes. That's how much you have in 4 years of high school. So this video is showing you in China, students have 2 million minutes in the high school years. So how much do you study? And in India, how much do the students study? And in the US, how much do the students study? And overall, it shows that United States students, they only study about 300,000 minutes in all of their high school. And it shows that Indian students study 422,000 minutes in high school. But Chinese and Korean students, they study almost twice as much, almost 600,000 minutes they spend studying. What is more interesting about this video is this video shows the actual life. And when you are watching a video, like a student walking around with a one of those cams on their shoulder, or like a Facebook video real-time everywhere they go, they show that most of the United States students spend their time focused on sports, playing football or soccer or swimming or hockey, something like that, or partying and playing or drinking and getting drunk or going crazy, and very little time actually studying school subjects. And then when they do study school subjects, very little of it is related to math or science. They could be studying art, or swimming is a class. I was in North America and I took skiing as a class in high school and in university in the United States. But in India and in China, they were showing that no, that you don't usually have classes like that. Almost all the classes are focused on maths and sciences or engineering. And before school and after school, similar to in Korea, students in high school will go to another school before regular school. And then after regular school, they will go home and go to a Hagwon, another academy, to help prepare so they're more competitive to get into the university to prepare for their future life. So this 583,200 minutes that the students in China and Korea spend, that's just in school. And then on top of that, in their free time, they're also studying something to make them more competitive. And those are huge reasons why United States is growing very slow, and India and China and Korea have been growing very fast. But in the last 5 years alone, the amount of time some people have been spending in Hagwons has gone down a lot. Can I ask the students in class, what about Park Hamin? When you were in your last year of high school, can you tell us how many minutes did you spend maybe outside of school in a hagwon studying extra? Or how many minutes in one day did you usually study to prepare for university?
For one day,
Yes.
I never go to the hagwon because the high school provide to time to study in the school
Okay,
from
so
another room.
what time did you start high school in the morning, and what time did you finish high school at night?
I went to school about 8 a.m. 8 a.m. and
Okay,
regular curriculum is maybe 5 p.m.
so 8 to 5. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Did you do any sports or soccer in your last year of high school? Or did you study extra after 5 p.m. in your last year of high school?
Yes, I did, but I just played soccer using my dinner time.
Leisure time, okay. Are there
Yeah.
any, thank you very much for that. Are there any other students in class that might have spent more time studying than just 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock? Going once. What about Jungwoo?
Yes,
Please answer the question.
yes, Professor. You mean how much time do I spend on Hagwon in high school, right?
In one day, how much time did you spend studying? Overall, total, at school and at home or in a hagwon? Did you study 8 hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.? Or did you study 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.? What is normal?
When I was in high school for last year, I study about 12 hours a day.
Okay, so more than just regular 8 to 5, 12 hours. How about a question for you? Do you have older brothers or sisters, or do you have older cousins? Do you know people that might be 10 years older than you? When the older people went to school 10 years before you, in their last year of high school, did they only study 12 hours? Was it more or less on average?
Maybe, as I know, is similar.
Similar? Okay.
It's similar.
When maybe I'm getting really old. I'm about 50 years old, Western age, so what's that, 52 years old in Korea. And some of the people that are my age, they were telling me that they had to wake up and study from 5 a.m. They would leave home and go to school. They would definitely have breakfast, lunch, and supper at school. And they usually have a school studies, or they go to a school academy, and they would usually come home in their last year of high school at midnight or 1 or 2 a.m. So they start almost at 5 a.m. and then they go to sleep after studying nonstop at almost 2 a.m., which means they only slept about 3 hours or 4 hours a day. Am I crazy? Are those people joking with me? Do any of the students in class here, have they heard of other people in Korea doing that?
Professor?
Yes.
To add the information what Hamin Park already told us, there is a mandatory class from like 8 to 5 or 6, and after that we have a dinner time to eat dinner all together, and then we have extra more mandatory classes which is called yaja.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so yeah. For example, Julian does not know about that. Ali does not know about that. There's a good chance that Easter may not know about that. And Shokabos and Shiraz, maybe they don't know about that. So can you explain to the non-Korean people in our audience what is normal for you and it sounds like 10 years ago it was harder than what you had. So can you explain more detail?
For instance, in my last year in university, we've studied until 11 o'clock
You mean your last
p.m.
year of high school, right?
Yeah, 11 p.m. until 11 p.m. But at the first and second year in high school, we studied like 9 p.m. until 9 p.m. in a class. But at the last year, we have to do the Korean, prepare for the Korean SAT. So we've spent all the time, almost until 11 p.m. for the mandatory class in my school. And then me and my friends go to the extra studying room, which is called 독서실. It's like an individual, a private room. So I've studied until like 1 p.m. 1 a.m. and then come back to home at like 1:30 a.m. and then go back to school at 7:30 a.m. So
18 or 19 hours of hardcore studying was normal for you.
yeah, and actually on the system of the mandatory classes after 6 p.m., the school has like hierarchical system for the students who are getting a good grade overall. Like for the top 30 people, like top 30 students who got a good grade in a class, they could use a better space for study, like private room in the school. So they were promoting us to study more like competitively and put more efforts in studying, only for studying, not for the extra activities such as like sports or art or something else. We're just focusing on studying in my case.
Okay. And what about 10 years before that, when your mother and father went to school, or your aunts and uncles? Do you think it was harder then, or easier for your parents' time?
For my parents,
Or
I think that's
aunts and
dependent on
uncles,
their. I think
10
that's
years older?
dependent. I think that's depend on their educational system, because my parents did not study that well because they have to work instead of study. But for some of the people that I've met in my work, um, when I've done an internship, the people who's older than me, they've told me they spend a lot of time, and I guess they spend much more time than me because the competition was more um,
Severe.
severe, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So for all of the non-Korean students here, I hope we're aware that many years ago, the competition to get the best jobs, the competition 50 years ago, just to get rice or a set of shoes was super, super hard. I know some professors my age, sometimes a little bit older, they had to compete with every student in the country to get an international scholarship. Today at Kim Young University, every student competes with others in your class or in your grade to get a scholarship to study abroad. But the older professors, 50, 60 years old, they had to compete with everybody in the country, and the government ministers and the president of Korea would actually interview them and check that they were good enough quality to go study in the United States or another country. So it was super, super hard long time ago, and people worked super, super hard. And by your age, the age group around now, many students studied at least 12 hours, if not 18 or 19 hours, just to get into university. But it was the opposite in Canada. In Canada, my age, for example, I would spend 18 hours a day playing or water skiing or on sports, and maybe an hour hardcore studying. When I studied, I would study, very deeply, but a lot of the time when I was in school, I would still be playing at school or skipping class. And I'm not trying to say my character is like this, or a student's character is a certain way in Korea. What I'm trying to get you to think about is what is the environment for international business? The normal student in Korea 30 years ago worked crazy hard. And the normal student 5 years ago still studied very hard. But almost each year, people are studying, some people say, less and less. And that's just in Korea. In North America, because they have been rich for a long time and developed for a long time, in North America, the average person is very comfortable and feels there's no need to work crazy hard. So they spend more of their time focused on doing something they feel is fun, or sports, or hobby. But in China and in India, those other countries with more than 1 billion people, and many of them are still considered kind of poor, they're working crazy hard again. So with coronavirus in 2020, in September and October, you do realize that almost most of the world is on the internet. Most companies are working online. Anybody on the planet could probably buy a Tesla car and have it delivered to them. Same thing, you can get a phone delivered to you. So you're competing with almost everybody. The internet is global. The workforces are global. I have been teaching students in other countries, and I am now teaching you by Zoom. I could be anywhere. Some of the students could be anywhere. So we are competing with people beyond borders. So start thinking about that. If you do want to be successful internationally, you are competing with not just your classmates anymore. Your classmate, if anything, is helpful for you because you can copy their article, or you can use the fact that you have a classmate when you walk up to a company, knock on the door and say, hi, we are a consulting club or research club. We're providing this special benchmark information that might be beneficial to you. And I have 40 other people in my team, otherwise known as my class, plus experts with PhDs and professors around the world that can help us. So the people around you, some students think the old style that they're competing with their grades, but you shouldn't. You should realize that you're competing with jobs from people anywhere on the planet. So what do you need to be successful? I hope that's a little bit clear. I'm going to just jump through this. We talked also about Hofstede. Everybody should understand what is power distance, individualism, career orientation, quality of life, the idea of uncertainty avoidance. Uncertainty avoidance is a very big part, and it's so big for Korean students that many students are still afraid to make a mistake. And we have a foreign professor from Denmark that will join the class sometime, and he talks about how the students in Denmark just automatically assume everybody in the world is equal. The professor, the president, the CEO of a company, a young student, they're all absolutely equal. And if anybody makes a mistake, it's okay because it's a learning opportunity. It's the opposite of in Korea, where if you make a mistake, maybe an old-fashioned student might get beat by a teacher. So you are pushed to be uncertain about anything you don't know well. You're worried, sometimes afraid, to take a chance. But that's not the way it is in Denmark or in Canada or USA or many Western countries. So our class, we give rewards to help you overcome your avoidance to anything that you're uncertain with. Make a mistake with me and I'll love you. I might not marry you, but I'll love you. It would be good for you. Let's get on. So there's many people, not just Hofstede, but there's also Hall, always talking about high context, low context. Many students in Korea work with the high context, and they forget that the rest of the world usually does not. What that means is Korean students use one word, maybe two, sometimes none, no words, and they think that's normal. But if you want to compete with an international job or international applicant, you must show your value. You must show what you know. You must show your abilities and your interest, your eagerness. So go beyond what is normal for you and get into the low context, which means using lots and lots of words to express what's in your mind and your ability. Pluckern and Strodbeck, or Trumpenar, or Schwartz, Globe, those are all experts. They're talking about how internationally you need to understand businesses and people work differently. Next, I already told you examples of student work experiences. I am here to teach you not only how to write a paper, but how to write the paper so you can give it not just to me. Don't worry about me. Don't care too much about the professor. Care about your dream company that you want to work with and make the paper as a consulting report for them using the world's most reliable sources like Scopus articles. So that will give you an international career advantage. And the idea of a grant is something some students have started to talk to me about. Whenever you guys want, we can have a special training session to introduce how to get a grant, where to get a grant, why grants should be very easy to get and draft, and help your dream company at the same time as getting money from some other multinational company in the world so that you can appear to be the dream employee for any company you want to help. So this is explaining the details of Pluckhorn, and this is the details of talking about Trumpenar. It's in the video and in the PPT. I'm going to just click through and show you some of the core cultural dimensions are power distance, which we definitely know, and social relationships, either individual or collectivist, the idea of environmental relationships, mastery of the environment versus being in harmony with the environment, time and work patterns, uncertainty and social control. So these are some of the core cultural dimensions. And even before that, you should know about human metrics. So who are you? You must know yourself before you know the other customers. And so human metrics will help you understand your culture. And we've gone through this. So I'm just going to get into now. That is the overview. If you want help on how to survey companies, we can talk about that. But the art of war is where we're at now. And the question at the beginning of the class was, what is the art of war? Why is it important? Can anybody tell me now? Again, what do you know about the art of war? I started to introduce a few things.
Professor, can
Yes.
I answer for the question?
Sure.
The Art of War is kind of a book which is talking about a strategy for the the different strategy of the Western and Chinese forces, the military forces, and it is showing it is suggesting how to prepare before going to the wartime from the Sun Tzu. I don't know how to read it.
Sun Tzu, yes.
Sun Tzu, yeah, Sun Tzu. So so Sun Tzu is giving us a lot of suggesting a lot of strategies, which is still we're using in a business world. Yeah.
Yes. Oops, this the link's not working, but yes, absolutely. That is what we're talking about. So what you can see on the screen here, if you look carefully, we see there's writing, but this is something like a chopstick, a very big chopstick. Here's another piece of wood, another piece of wood, another piece of wood, another. Generally, there's 13 pieces of wood, and many years ago, some old ancient warrior, he wrote down his secrets to success on each piece of wood. So one piece of wood had one secret to success. And that's what I want you guys to discuss in a group today. What is, in your opinion, the secret to success? And so the art of war is talking about if instructions are not clear and the commandments are not adequate, it is the commander's fault. And that goes for me too. I want you to talk to me, complain to me. I have videoed this class. There is a video of every main topic in the Excel, in the class outline. You can watch this. You don't need to listen to me. And I've provided you with a lot of folders of many hundreds of files that should definitely overwhelm you. And so they've been clarified and sorted into the Excel file, but it's still, it should be overwhelming to you because I'm acting like an equal library sharing information with you, which is not the Korean way, exposing you to the international way. You should have access to lots of information. If you want the simplest version of the class, just watch the videos that have already been pre-recorded. If you think that there's still confusion and you're not comfortable or you don't know how to get about the class, you must contact me. I'm inviting every student every day to ask questions either in class or through Zoom or Facebook or Kakao or my WhatsApp or with the TAs, which are specifically to help you understand how to do the class. The class should be easy. If you think the class is hard, it's because you're not understanding. So ask questions. Otherwise, it's my fault. Blame me, talk to me. And so this is the video that you can watch in YouTube. I guess I didn't copy the HTTP at the beginning, but if you watch this video, it shows you that Sun Tzu, he was chosen by the Emperor of China many years ago because he was supposed to be famous. He could win any negotiation, he could win any battle. And so the king brought him, the emperor brought him in front of the emperor and said, "You say you are the best. Can you prove it?" And he says, "I believe so." He says, "You say you can train any staff or any person to win a battle." And he says, "Okay, then do it. You're surrounded by all these beautiful concubines, my girlfriends. Take these ladies and turn them into warriors." And he says, "No problem. How long will it take?" And he says, "I could probably have them start fighting within the week." And these are basically 20 just sex slaves or girlfriends of the emperor. They're not meant for war. They're only meant for serving the emperor. And so the girls are listening to this and they just start giggling. Ha ha ha, he he he. And so the emperor says, "Very well, they are now 100% under your control." And so he starts explaining to them what they have to do. And they all are asked, "Do you understand?" "Yes." "Do you have any questions about this?" "No." And then so he starts telling them, "Okay, you need to do this." And two of the girls go up and they happen to be the leaders of all of these emperor's concubines, and they're supposed to demonstrate it. And so this guy, Sun Tzu, he chops their head off because they weren't able to do it. They just joked. And every other girl afterwards saw that they could die, it's very serious, if they don't take this seriously. And at the end of the week, those women were able to fight other soldiers. It's part of this animated video by the History Channel. You can watch it. It's very, very interesting. And so it shows how. And it says the first rule was to win 100 battles is not the height of skill. Just because you can win battles doesn't mean you're really good at being a good leader or in war. Let your plane be as dark as night. Let your plan be as dark as night. Then strike like a thunderbolt. That is another suggestion, another one of the secrets to success. And he goes on and he talks about weather or the train or leadership or military doctrine. And most importantly, the idea of moral influence. All of those can influence the leaders and your groups. So you must understand all of them to do well. And how does that relate to today? Basically, it's saying you can be influenced by anything, by the internet, by the news, by Donald Trump's crazy stories, by coronavirus. Everything can influence you, especially students applying for jobs from China or India or North America. There are international people in our class now. So be aware, there's so much competition, there's so much information out there. It's one of the reasons why our class is kind of crazy. We have so much information. Your job is to try to sort through it and use not only me as a professor, but the other TAs and your classmates to help understand how to deal with all of this information, whether it's the weather, the train, leadership, military records, or your moral influence. Next, warfare is deception. I found this reality in business. I've worked in business for many years. I still continue to consult in business, and I see increasingly a lot of organizations, a lot of companies use a lot of deception to help them win. And it's not just in business. I think I was talking earlier about how I walked into a political science class and the political science professor was teaching the students two things. One, how to get a job, and two, about how to be successful in politics. And the answer was the same: lie. This political science professor was saying political science is learning how to lie. I was disgusted. But then I started thinking about it, and even though I don't like it, it is a very, very big part of business. I discourage lying and cheating, but the idea of deception is very, very important. Maybe we can talk about this more. But overall, it is essential to understand true image and the reality or deception are very important. Next, it's essential to seek out the enemy agents who have come to spy. So understanding the use of spies is very important. When I was working with the government before, when I was working with top companies before, they did use a lot of spying tactics. For example, the top companies, they had a rule, a policy, where they had to regularly post job advertisements and interview top candidates from their competing companies. And they interviewed them not with the real intention to hire them, but with the main intention to video everything that they said and learn the secrets of the competitors. So these companies were basically interviewing executives from competing companies just to learn more of their secrets. So think about those types of things. Next, to move your enemy, entice him with something that he is certain to like or to take. So sometimes you don't want to fight in a battleground. Sometimes you don't want to compete for customers head to head. Sometimes you need to do something different. Some people say Elon Musk is doing that now. Some people say he's using cars as deception to pretend to be a car company when he doesn't care about cars. He cares about controlling information for transportation, basically competing with companies like Uber or taxi companies. In the future, he believes he's going to know more about what customers want for transportation than anybody else in the world. He says that he may give cars away. That could be argued here. Next, the way a wise general can achieve greatness beyond ordinary men is through foreknowledge, no details in advance. So there's a lot of information here. I'm not going to, again, waste too much of your time reading every single one of these. We summarize this stuff here. You can see in this sheet, as I said earlier, there's supposed to be 13 different chopsticks that Sun Tzu wrote his plans on. So I want you to now break into groups and start talking with your group about several things. I'm giving you many different things. I'm giving you the environment. I'm giving you the weather. I'm giving you the terrain. I'm giving you the Sun Tzu's written Art of War translated by 3 different people. And the ultimate challenge is, after you talk in your group must have one member propose to the class what can be one thing that can most help you be successful. Is it good planning skills? Is it good management or directing skills? Is it the ability to manage other people? Is it lots of money? Is it education? So is there any students that have questions about this right now before we break you in the group? Julian and I will break you in the group. Any questions? Juksong, can I help you? Can you help me tell the class what you're supposed to do now? What are you supposed to do before you get, or when you get into the groups, the breakout rooms? What are you supposed to talk about, and what do you have to do when you finish the breakout groups?
So when we are breaking into groups, we have to discuss about the subjects that you suggested, and when the discussion is over, the group's leader would be presenting the results of our discussion.
Great. It could be the group leader, or the group leader may delegate to somebody else that doesn't talk very much while you're in your group talking. And if there's somebody that didn't talk very much, you can delegate to that person to talk. But overall, yes, you're absolutely correct. You need to talk in your group about what is one thing you want to pray for from the magic genie, from Harry Potter, from Aladdin. If they can give you one thing, what is it? And we have taught about 13 special policies or premises or art of war is the world's most important strategy for success in military or business. So that's a good thing to start with. Any last questions before we break you into groups? Do Hyun Hak, any questions from you?
I'm waiting for you to divide the group. I mean, like, I understood your question. So like, what about we just divide into the groups and discuss about what you have just said?
Okay. I'm starting to break you guys into groups right now. And we should be ready to start soon. Okay. All rooms are going to open now.